It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. T. Sundararaman, former professor of medicine at JIPMER, Pondicherry, and former executive director, National Health Systems Resource Center. Doctor, I would like to ask you questions related to three issues. One is on social stigmatization that is happening around COVID. The second is the worry that existing social hierarchies are getting amplified around COVID. And the third is about genuine concerns and questions that people have. So let me take up the very first one, which is on social discrimination around COVID of individuals who have it, of health workers, and also of communities having spread this disease. So can I ask you your views on this, Doctor?
Typically, stigmatization is of two types. One is when others look at a person with the disease as having some serious defect, something that is contemptible. But the other equally important form of stigmatization is when persons perceive themselves having the disease as itself something that has put them to shame, something that they need to hide. There is a strong sense of shame associated with stigma. Okay, and hostility is an extreme form of that, which is, and beating up, lynching, etc., is the combination of fear, antisocial behavior, and stigma. But at the root of this is stigma, a sense of it. Now, stigma very often arises because at some sense you feel that there has been a fault. Something. So if one has got the disease, then it is something that is wrong with oneself. Maybe I did not follow physical distancing seriously enough, or maybe it's a bad person, or maybe God is punishing. So typically a person with cancer feels ashamed. With HIV feels, yes, it has been a certain unacceptable social behavior. Therefore we have got HIV. Leprosy had historically very great stigma. People were, so there is fear of contagion, but there is also a sense that this is being punished for something that they have done wrong. Now, in the way we have propagated this understanding about the disease, we have overemphasized the role physical distancing and individual responsibility has to play in a community responsibility. There is no doubt such a responsibility and an accountability of the individual. But the bottom line is that physical distancing reduces risk. It does not eliminate it. The virus causes the disease, not lack of physical distancing or something. You could have not been and not get the disease. You could have easily. There is a host factor, there is a virus factor, and there is a physical contact factor. There are many factors. So some people could have been hugging the other person and won't get the disease, and some people would have been very careful, but they may still get the disease because of the way virus transmission occurs. Okay. So physical distancing reduces risk, does not eliminate it. So the key message is, if you do get the disease, don't feel guilty and blame yourself. And don't feel angry and blame others. Both are equally wrong. Okay. You have to see that this is as natural a process as growing up. Getting ill, everybody gets ill, everybody recovers, eventually everybody will die. And therefore this is part of the natural being, and it does not relate to the karma or does not relate to what good or bad one has done.
Okay. So, and what about stigmatization of health workers?
So this again is an issue because at some point this is much more fear, but this is much more because the visualization of the disease has got linked to evil and has got linked. These are cultural links. It is not there in that particular information. But we do that. We have sense of praying for, and here you are also got the fear that they are bringing them in. So the notion is of the of an evil miasma in most of these cultures. There are some equivalent word. It sort of wafts from the person to the surrounding. So if you're within that range, then it will penetrate, which is not the way the virus spreads. So in some sense, there is also a sense of, the person of that he can be held responsible for bringing the disease to me.
So, of course, so that should not be the case. I mean, as you said. Okay. So the other issue, so I live in a complex, and there is always this talk about maybe we should not be allowing our maids in even after the lockdown because they could bring in the disease. Then there is also this worry that the milkman perhaps comes from a different community, and maybe we should not be bringing in. And this is of course causing a lot of tension. And the worry is, are these justifiable at all?
So if you study the history of pandemics, if you study the history of epidemics, there has always been the feeling of the other. There has always been the other person bringing it in. People not like you having the disease because you are good. And you have had the feeling for whatever reason. It may be caste, it may be religion, it may be a community, and you have always felt them as apart from you. There have been notions of cleanliness and uncleanliness. Remember, we are a society that practiced untouchability. So we have been a set. So therefore, there is this immediate fear that if we are getting into a disease, it's nothing that we are doing, but there is the other person who's bringing it in. How you define the other. But there is this sense of blame, of what is called victim blaming. You blame the person for getting the disease. You expect society to have sympathy and support for him, but actually it has blame and hostility for him.
Rather unfortunate.
This is one of the heart of the notion of the other. And therefore, one has to be very, very careful to actually project this in the reverse sense. That those in the front line, those who are the milkmen has to travel, not because they are milkmen, not because they are in the community, will get the disease earlier, are more likely to get the disease. And if they get it, they need our support and solidarity. And in some sense, once they are improved, they are an asset to us. Because they have less likelihood of disease and they can help much better. They have the experience and you can take it. And it's important to understand, of course, now there are people even using plasma, even they donate their blood. It is important to understand that this disease is not a stigma.
So it is important to empathize, as you said, with them.
If there are a residential area, then the residential area has connections with the outer world, the vegetable vendor, the milkman, the dhobi, the gardener, the housemaid. They have different people coming and going. At some point, you need a larger sense of solidarity because at some point, you know someone will get. You are not immune. By rejecting the maid, you have not reduced your chances. You will still fall sick, but the number of people who are supporting you are less. So social solidarity plus physical distancing. So I don't use the word, even WHO shifted away from social distancing. It's physical distancing and social solidarity.
And now I'll come to the third part, which is genuine questions that people have. So, for example, so now we have these corporation officers who come on a day-to-day check. And suppose my child actually is having fever that day. What do I do? Do I tell the corporation person? Because I'm afraid that the corporation people might come and take away my child. What is your suggestion on this?
So, this is a very difficult question. In my opinion, as a practical person, I would say you will need to negotiate that person at your level based on what principle. First, in some situations, home isolation is possible. In other situations, it's not possible. And it's not even preferable. Second, you must have confidence in the place where isolation is being provided, that they'll take care and that that care is of good quality. Third, as far as possible, we do not want to delude people. We should actually be able to tell them and there should be trust. As an individual, you will have to balance your responsibility to trust and tell, your assessment of how it will be under isolation, and the risks and the difficulties you have in home isolation. You will have to balance this.
Okay. And
let me come. There's government policy. Government policy should not look at coercion. It should look at multiple options, including an option of community-supported and managed, people-friendly isolation and quarantine centers. Allow people to visit people, make sure that people are comfortable, reassurance, have grievance redressal, listen to people so that you get the comfort. The best certainty of people not hiding disease from you is those getting discharged and coming back and saying, no, don't worry, it's better there, it's safer there. You have absolutely nothing to be worried about. So you please, if people who are discharged coming out and telling that, then you're home and through.
Okay.
But if people come back and say, we've had a bad time there, then you're going to hide it.
Okay.
And if stigma is there, if in some sense you are being shamed, if the person says, what? You were not careful. Now why have you got the disease? Or worse, like in the media they say, we'll file an FIR against the person. What action have you taken against the person? And the shrieking media anchors shouting for more and more anchor. This is damaging the whole cause of the fight against this pandemic.
In fact, that was my question also. So if I have fever, if I develop fever and I have a cough, what would you recommend me to do? Do I go and test myself? Would that be advisable?
So the systems are not developed well enough. But ideally, and this is the planned architecture, you have a helpline. You should ring that helpline. You should be able to direct you. They should ask you where you are situated and direct you. The options are they can come and test at home, or they can tell you a designated COVID-19 testing center which is nearest to your house, or if it doesn't look like COVID-19, they can tell you, you go to that place. If public transport is preferably avoided and you can't do your own, they should send an ambulance and take you there, test you, and if it is positive, isolate, if not this. So in some sense, you should have a helpline to list. If this is not functional, the next best thing is to develop a rapport with your area officer in charge of the program, which may be in the primary health center or the block. Where you are. If even that is not possible, ask for some general practitioner or some hospital that will play this nodal role. But from the government, the system is the helpline and designated COVID care centers.
Thank you so much, doctor. Thank you.